be back, and it's not good to be back. It sounds, I guess, strange to make a comment like that, but in life, I see life as a journey, I guess, as a bus ride, with Jesus as the driver, and the scenery constantly changes, but the trip is enjoyable most of the time. But every now and then you do get a flat tyre, or have to take a detour, but the journey is still on. So our time in China was one of difference and one of enjoyment, and we really did have a great time. And so I've titled today's talk called Missionary Work is a Charade. Now, you might ask the question, why would you say that missionary work is a charade? Hopefully, in the next few minutes, you will see why I've called it is a charade, and also come to realise after a while that that is actually a false statement, as well as being a true statement. Now, why do you think, and over to you, that I would call missionary work is a charade? We all know what a charade is. It's a game in one way where you've got to try and guess what the words that someone's trying to say. But its dictionary definition is something that's usually a pointless exercise, futile, and slightly counterfeit. So why would I say that missionary work is a charade? Any ideas?
You're trying to get a message across without using words.
Absolutely. Any other reasons that I might say it's a charade or a charade?
You don't know what you're getting into.
That is so true. You don't know what the answer is. Yeah, well hopefully, yeah.
Using teaching as a vehicle to bring the gospel.
Yeah, see, a lot of good intellectual answers. I wasn't quite that highbrow. A lot of it is that we have a very false perception of what missionaries do, what missionaries are, and who they are. Most of us, and particularly me before I went away, had a bit of a view of missionaries as being some sort of super saints, that they were above the ordinary. Alan laughs because he once worked on the mission field, and they really are no different to you or I. Most of them do not have theological degrees. Most of them are there because they have a love or a heart for the country or the people they're in, but they really are no different to you or I, and they are ordinary people. But somehow, back home, we tend to elevate them to a degree of being super saints. You expect that in a team of missionaries that you would have no arguments, no fights, no dilemmas, because they're all loving the Lord. Well, I'm sorry. When we were there, that was the case, but it's not always the case, because on the mission field, the missionaries are just like church. People interact. People's toes get trodden on. And the reason people, and it's interesting that you only tread on people's toes, it's usually because of the ones that you are closest to that you dance with. You don't dance with your enemies. And so it is that our view of missionary work is often jaundiced. It is not often real. It's not often true. So let's have a look about our 3 months in China. There are 7 myths about China. There's a whole lot more. But one of the myths are you must have a heart for the people to be a missionary. Another is you must know the language. Makes sense, doesn't it? Another myth is that people have strange habits. The church is government controlled. Bibles need to be smuggled in. There's a long history of heathenism and they're not receptive to the gospel. And there is no need for foreigners. It's a big enough country. It's probably the largest population in the world, over 2 billion people. Therefore, why is there a need for foreigners? So there, actually, you hear that often. But let me tell you, right from the start, from the outset, these are myths. The exact opposite is true. Let's have a look. The first one. You must have a heart for the people. Sue and I, when we went to China, and before we went to China, knew nothing about China or the Chinese people, per se. Sure, we went to school, we learned about China when we were at school, but if I remember rightly, the last time I learned about China in school was probably going on for 30 years ago, or more. And I think you forget I'm a teacher. And the interesting thing is that some mission people on the field were a little bit resentful that we were there, because we didn't go because we had a heart, a desire to be in China. Why did we go? Not because we had the heart or desire to be in China. We went because Sue and I learned early in our Christian life, particularly in our married life, we had to choose for ourselves at this day whom we would serve. And Joshua, this is from Joshua, chapter 21, said to the people there, choose this day who you will serve. As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And that's the motto and the creeds that Sue and I have lived by. And so we didn't need to have a heart for the people of China to go to China or to go on the mission field. We needed to have a heart that was listening to God. God told us there was a need. He also told us that we had the ability, the qualifications, the time and the support to fulfill that need. Therefore, what's stopping you? Here I am, Lord, send me. We didn't really want to go, but we felt we needed to go. And the people, after Joshua had spoken to them, said, no, we will serve the Lord. And Joshua went on a bit further and talked to them. And finally the people said, we will serve the Lord our God and obey Him. There is a distinction. We can all serve the Lord. There are people serving the Lord everywhere, every way, which way going. But the trick is to be obedient to what He is asking you to do. And that is why we went to China. So missionary work is not a matter of knowing or having a heart for the people. It's a matter of being obedient to what the Lord wants you to do. You may see a need elsewhere, but you have not been called or told to go there. So you have got to be obedient and stay where you are and do what you have to do where you are. Thank you. Next one. You must know the language. Now, I can read this Chinese down here, underneath. It says, you must know the language. Up there is an example of the computer stuff that I had to deal with. Walked in the classroom and all that, and saw them in Chinese. First one is exactly the same screenshot. The second one's not real clear there. The second is a screenshot. there is a thing these days called Google, Bing, or Microsoft or whatever, Translate. So that first one, and we all have to enter our marks, comes out in China. You hit the thing that says Translate, and you get this next tab, this next page, and it's written in English. Now it's funny English sometimes. It's funny English because it might take it to, and they use different words, but nonetheless it's English, and you're halfway there to try and work out what you've got to do. You must know the language. For me to get that, I just type that in. It spat out the Chinese, I put it there. To make sure I got it right, I put it into another program in Chinese, and it came back and it said, you must know the language. So you don't need to know the language necessarily to be a missionary. You need to know how to communicate. And you communicate as you do today, wherever you are. Fortunately, most places we go to, lots of it's in English, you can be there, you can get it done. But the main reason that I call missionary work, particularly in China, for us was a charade, was for us, in order to communicate in most cases, most circumstances, was I had to do my Mr. Bean impersonation.
Can we see it?
You had to act it out. If you wanted a Chinese meal, they gave you a book with the pictures of it and you pointed at what you wanted. We actually found a Kentucky Fried, it was KFC. And we were able to go in there and it was all in Chinese. And Sue had actually got a English-Chinese dictionary and we looked it up and we wanted a cup of coffee. And we finally found it. And coffee in Chinese is cafe. Really good. And we thought we'd prefer to have a chocolate ice cream. And chocolate in Chinese is chocolate. So you can get by. One of the big problems we had, we went into a supermarket and we had to communicate with the people, I needed, and Sue will tell you this, deodorant. Underarm stuff. Couldn't find it anywhere. So I went up to the girls, the sales assistants, and went. She took me straight to the place where it was, and we got it. All I can say is I was extremely thankful that the toilet paper was very readily on show. You don't need to know the language to be serving the Lord. You need to be able to be a fool at times to get the message across. Where we were, fortunately, in the students, they spoke English, they had to. You can say the words in Chinese very easily. For instance, to go down to the old city was Lao Chung. And I went on the bus and I said, Lao Chung. And they all looked at me as if I had 5 heads. Because there is a tone in how you have to say it. And you have to go, Lao Chung. And you get there. And when I did that, this girl got me to practice it. And I got on the bus, I went, Lao Chung, straight off. No worries. So you need to be willing to listen and learn and be a fool. And you will communicate. So you have to have a heart for the Lord and obedience. And you have to be prepared to be a fool. And you have to be prepared to try and communicate the best way you can. These days we have modern equipment, technology that helps us do lots and lots of things. It's different. From years ago, and Helen and I were corresponding about this by email. When she was in Africa on the mission field, to get a letter or whatever it took months. I could send an email and a couple of hours later or a minute later get it all back to me to Australia, if the communication worked. So things are different. Technology makes communication different. We are a global village. We really are. Thanks. Next one. The people have strange habits. This, Ron, is the butcher's. In fact, they have it hanging up, not in a refrigerated area because it's fairly cold, it's inside there. We got shown around to the marketplace, we got taken to where all the fruit and vegetables were and all that, and the people showing us decided not to take us into the meat tin. But we had to go through it to get to where we were going. And they said, be warned, be careful, this may be disturbing. It sounded like one of those foreign films, or, you know. And we walked through that, and I said, what's the problem? And they said, oh, there's meat everywhere and all this. And I said, so what? And you know, they've got the sides, you've seen them cutting off the land there and all this. I said, you know, we've done this at home, what are you on about? He said, well, most Europeans, or most Australians, most Westerners get repulsed at seeing all this. They think that their meat comes from the supermarket already wrapped up in plastic bags. And like their milk comes out of bottles, not out of cows. So that's what it is. That's their so-called strange habits. But that's not the case everywhere in China. This is in the rural areas. In the city areas, in Shanghai and Beijing, they have wonderful modern supermarkets like you have down at Tugger or wherever it is. It's incredible. Next. People have strange habits. There's the city main CBD of Incheon where we were. Look how clean the streets are. Look at the building, the decorations. It really, except for the writing in English and you don't know what it is much the same as being in Australia. The only difference is you don't have a Woolies on one corner and a Coles on another and so on. There is one supermarket for the area because there's no need for the competition. The government said this is where you are, and this is the one selling this and this thing. But you want to go and buy a computer part or bedroom parts or whatever it is, or furniture, you go onto a floor and they have all these individual people selling computer parts, the same things, but they're in small little rooms. They really don't have strange habits. We got told before we went, you will find people spitting on the buses, kids urinating on the buses, the streets will be filthy, so on and so forth. Biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. We did not see any of these filthy habits. We got told they don't use handkerchiefs. They just do that. I got across there after getting off the plane and had a bit of, for my first lesson, had a bit of a sniffle, and I said to the students, I'm sorry, I know it's not your custom, but I have to use my handkerchief. He turned away and wiped my nose, and they all looked at me and said, you're weird. I said, what are you talking about? And they said, what? I said, well, I know it's your custom that you don't use handkerchiefs. And they said, what a load of rubbish. They had paper ones, and they would throw them out, but they had to. The things that we get told about China today are based on people who were 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They forget that life evolves and changes. We're away from here for 3 months, and already we can see changes. Changes in the church, changes in the town. You, being here all the time, would have seen that. But it is often said the Greeks in Melbourne are more Greek than the Greeks in Greece. Because they remember what it was like when they were in Greece, and they try and retain in their little enclave what it all is in Greece, forgetting that Greece actually evolves and grows and changes based on what's going on. So they don't have strange habits and customs. They may do things differently. But even, people in the church do things differently. Teachers teach differently. You have to be prepared that what you get there is what you see is what you get. And you can adjust. Don't go there thinking you're going to change the world. Don't go there thinking, there really are bad habits or whatever. Just realise they are people like you and me. They may look different. They may be not as tall or whatever. But they could be anywhere. It's a global village. Next one. The church is government control. This is what you'll see, and from Christian organisations. This came off a website of Christianity Today, and it started last year. Since early April this year, The 1,000 member strong Shaowang Church near Beijing has held services outdoors, rain or shine, and 8 of its pastors are under house arrest. The government, citing the church's lack of registration, pressured the church's landlord to cancel Shaowang's lease. The church is being persecuted. It's controlled by the government. When we were there, we went to a Chinese church. We also went to a Western church, but we went to a Chinese church. It was all in Chinese. And one of the young students that we went with, he himself, a couple of months earlier, had been, their church that he went to, a house church he went to, had been raided and they got dispersed and everything else. And so, oh, that sounds terrible. The government is controlling the churches. Let's have a look at what's being said here. The government citing the church's lack of registration. All churches, if you are over 20, must be registered with the government. How terrible, how horrible. Guess what? Every church in Australia needs to be registered with the government. Otherwise you don't get the tax benefits, tax breaks. What happens there is you can have a house church, but the moment it gets over 20, you've reached a size where you need to be registered. And it just doesn't apply to the Christian churches. It applies to the Buddhist churches if they're there. It applies to anything. It applies to the Muslims. It applies to Islam. The government's saying, if you are fair dinkum about what you're doing, then let the world know. Now, I know that years ago and all this, that yeah, there probably was persecution and everything else. But today, there is a freedom of worship there that has been unparalleled in China for the last 50 years. And there's nothing wrong with being registered as a church. Let's have a look at the next one. This is the church that we went to not far from the university. The cross, it's all up there. We got there early, and there's the people in the congregation, the choir up the front, just like we do it here. It's all in Chinese or whatever it is, got the PowerPoint and so on. By the time, the service had started, there was 800 people there. And they were singing the songs that we sing. I didn't know the words, but I could tell the tune. I didn't know the words of the sermon, but I could tell he was on fire. And then when the students, they translated, they took notes and passed them back to us to let us know what he was saying. And guess what the sermon was on? Joshua 24. As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And the guy was saying flat out, you're doing nothing. We've got to get out there, we've got to evangelise. We've got to make sure we're seen to be serving the Lord. And he was socking it to them all. It was brilliant. I walked out and with one of the colleagues, and he grabbed me, the minister, and he started to tell me all what was going on. And I didn't have a clue. And I said, hang on, brought the student over. What had transpired, we said, on our way there, said, these students that we've got, where do we feed them into? They come from all over China. They need to get in with a fellowship, in with a family. And the guy says, we've been praying and we've decided that we've started up a Friday night fellowship for the university students. Where we put them there. Now there's a little bit of an argument, a little bit of a worry by some in the team, not just ours but the Americans as well, and the British. If we feed them into this government church, does that mean they're going to be controlled and the government knows how many Christians there are? Well, maybe. But at the moment, that's the right and proper thing to do. Let's get them in there. Let's get them fed. Let's get them fellowship. The next one. Here is a letter written by the Catholic Bishop of Shanghai in 2010 or 2011. This is the Catholic Bishop in Shanghai. Last year, Bishop Xing gave me the list of baptisms in the Shanghai Diocese in 2009. There were 1,641 baptised and 1,038 deaths. In all, there are only 603 new believers for the year. There are 83 priests in the diocese, which indicates each priest only contributes 20 saved souls to our Lord each year. Can this be good news? This is the Catholic Bishop of Shanghai saying there's not enough being done to evangelise. Then he goes on, I am almost 96. So he's gone through the whole Cultural Revolution and the Japanese War, prior to the Second World War and all this, and I'm ready for the Lord's call. He'll ask me, what have I done for all the blessings the Lord has afforded me? Living in China, going through the Cultural Revolution, and says, all the blessings the Lord's afforded me. Don't forget, a lot of the Christians early on, and because they were academics, they were killed. Maybe I will say, my Lord, I've built many churches. The Lord will stop me and say, this is secondary. What I want are not steel or cement. What I want are souls, saved souls. How many souls have you saved? Catholic Bishop in Shanghai. Those words could be said to Australian churchgoers. They should be said to Australian churchgoers. What the Lord wants is not concrete churches and things. He wants people. Thank you. Next one. Sure, the church is government controlled. Isn't it wonderful when you've got the bishop of a Catholic church being able to say that? Now, here's interesting. Figures on the Bible publishing provide one reliable snapshot of the phenomenal growth in China. Amity, the official, government-controlled publisher of Bibles in China, increased Bible printing each year from 1998, 2.8 million Bibles, to 2008, where there were 10 million Bibles. The 80th million Bible has been printed last year. Now, Mr. Jing Jiang, Deputy Minister of the State Administration for Religious Affairs, you know, the equivalent of a federal government minister, said that the 80 million copies of Bible have not only helped to satisfy the demand of the Chinese Christians, but also that of the overseas Christians, thus boosting the exchange between Chinese and overseas churches. The Chinese government encourages Chinese churches to enhance its exchange and friendship with overseas churches, Mr. Jiang said. A communist government minister is saying that the government is supporting churches and exchanges. Something has radically changed in China. It has 2 billion people. What have we got? 20 million. We don't even, well, if we were, Australia would be a minority group in China and one of the smallest minority groups in China. People are still saying today, Christian people, Bibles need to be smuggled in. Most of you, if you turn to the front page of your Bible, will find in there, where is it printed? In China. Now, the Christians there don't get enough Bibles. They can't afford them. A good Bible will cost about $70. Not a good one, but just an ordinary type Bible will cost about $70. And that's a fortune. I had the privilege of giving away 2 Bibles while I was there to 2 students. One girl, I couldn't believe the way she danced and all that. And the reason that I found out about it was that she sent me a Christmas message, you know, happy Christmas. And I wrote text back and said, yeah, same to you, but may you get to know the true meaning of Christmas. She texts back and says, I know what the true meaning of Christmas is. I've known it ever since I went to secondary school, when our teacher used to read us portions from the Bible every day. And I said, wow, and I'm talking to her, and I said, well, and she says, I still read my Bible. And I said, oh, have you got a Bible? She says, no. I said, how do you read your Bible? She says, I go to the library and borrow it. But then I've got to take it back. So we said, would you like a Bible? She said, yeah. So we gave her a Bible. And then she got talking to her. She said, do you mean to say this is mine to keep? We said, yeah, it's a gift. Like a free gift, yeah? Oh, does this mean I just got to leave it here at college, at uni? And no, you can take it. You can take it home to your village. She got so overjoyed. And we said, well, what's that? Yeah, well, it's just a gift. You can take it home, it's yours. She said, no, my parents will be so pleased. You know, I've got a Bible. I said, oh, that's fine. Would they like one? And she said, no. What? I got pretty deflated. well, why wouldn't they like one? Well, they're illiterate, they can't read or write. They just want me to read them the Bible. They're so happy now, they're like, I'll be able to read them the Bible every night when I go home. So you see, there's a need, there's a craving out for the Bible. These days, and Jan mentioned in the children's talk, you've got things called the smartphones. Every single smartphone or computer these days, you can have a Bible. It's on these phones. It might be like me. Unfortunately, I've got a little bit of short-sightedness. I've got to have driving glasses or whatever it is. To read it. And if you can't read it, okay. Modern technology. I haven't quite learned how to use it yet, but it's there, the kids do. They're doing it all the time. They're texting, it's there. Do we need to smuggle Bibles in? No. Do we need to get Bibles to China? Yes. Do we need to encourage them? Yes. But don't go by the lies and the deceit of others who say that we need to smuggle them in, we need to break the law. We don't. We may have had to in the past. But any organisation exists to get the Bibles out, not to con Christians into the wrong thing. And we should be praying for them, and we should be making sure the Bibles get into these people's hands, because we do know that reading the Bible works. It works in China, and it works well. It may not work as much in Australia. And there's some people, one minister I heard say, I wish people would use their Bibles like they do their mobile phones. My son Tim tells me the story just recently, a month or two ago, in his church in Maitland. Some older people went up to the minister, the pastor, and said, I'm really annoyed and I'm really cranky about the lack of manners, the insensitivity of the young people in this church who are on their phones when you're giving the sermon. And the minister said, hey, do you realise they're actually reading their Bible? We took our Bibles with us. There were a couple of Ks in weight, in luggage. I've got every version you could possibly think of on here. And the young people are in there doing this on their Bibles. They're looking up things and they're actively taking part in the sermon, in the teaching. So before we criticise anyone, realise what really is going on. And the young people in China have the opportunities to have this. They can't get Facebook and they can't get YouTube, which is probably a good thing, and how to get around it. But they can have their phones and they can have their Bibles. It's wonderful. Next, thanks. Now, it's been said that there's a long history of heathenism in China. They're heathens. They're horrible people. You know, they deserve to be saved. You know, a bit like Jonah and the Ninevians. Didn't want them to be saved, because if they got saved and he went and preached to them, they might repent and God will forgive them. And this is the same bishop wrote this letter from Shanghai. In 1945, there were 100,000 brothers and sisters in Shanghai. After 62 years and 3 generations, there are still 100,000 Catholics today. Excellent. By comparison, there were 20,000 Protestants in Shanghai in 1949, but there are now over 200,000 Protestants in Shanghai. Shanghai has a population of 20 million people. You take every single person in Australia and dump them in Shanghai, And the city itself was no bigger than Tea Gardens, Hawks Nest and Dindyma, that area there, North Arcade. 20 million people. There are more Christians in China than members of the Communist Party. It's very hard to estimate how many Christians are, but there's over 200 million. Some of them saying it's getting closer to 800 million. We don't know, we're not sure. They have had not a long history of heathenism, they've had in many ways a long history of Christianity. The Nestorians in the 600s went to China. And in Xi'an, you've got the steles of their record. You have Hudson Taylor that worked there. Little is it known that the first president of the Republic, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, was a Christian. The next president, Chiang Kai-shek, was also a Christian. Married a Christian lady, a Uniting Church one. And what a lot of people don't know is that Mao Zedong, or Mao Zedong, went to a Christian university. The first, or the main leader of the Communist Party through all that time had been taught by Christians. Went to a Christian university. The ambassador from the United States to China, up until the Second World War when they were all sort of kicked out, was the founder of the university in Beijing, and he was a missionary prior to being the ambassador, and he came from a missionary family, and he was born in China in the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s. He taught many of the intellectuals who actually went and joined the Communist Party. Why the Communist Party got established in China, lots of other political reasons and so on. But they were sick of the corruption. And many of the Christians joined the Communist Party to make a difference. And they said, we are not going to forget our Christian roots, our Christian heritage. Now, there was oppression, there's no risk about all that. But today, that is coming out. And the number of Christians in China is incredible. There is a freedom there that wasn't there maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago. But there is today, which tells me there's something we've got to be doing today, because this may not always be the case. And the beauty of it is, if we can influence the rapid growth of China's population with Christianity, they're going to be the ones that are going to get into India and other places where we can't go. What gets me is that people had gone through the Cultural Revolution. They were 90 years old today, or 70 years old, and they are still strong believers. We're in that campaign there, eating noodles with our chopsticks. And I thought we were doing a great job. And these 2 young girls came over and sat with us and said, "Excuse me, I hope you don't mind, can we sit with you and teach you how to use chopsticks?" I actually think it was a bit of a pretense, because they got started talking to us straight off and said, "Are you believers?" We did not know what to say. Because just then, just previously that week, one of our colleagues had got into a little bit of hot water, about having given an MP3 player to someone in a city 800 kilometres away to listen to, and it got passed back to a student by another student of another college back, and it ended up with the dean of the university, and it looked like that he may have been proselytised. You can speak about Christianity, you can talk about your faith, but you can't proselytise. Just like you're in school in Australia or at university. You just can't teach from it because you're in a position of authority. You know, it's understandable. You just, people have got to make up their own mind. Well, he was a bit upset about that. Don't blame him. But we were pretty happy too, because in order to know what was on that MP3 player, they had to listen to it. And so they were hearing it. Now, so when these people asked, we thought, well, I wonder if they're testing us, so we didn't know what to say. We got talking to them and said, yes, we believe and we read the Bible. And one of them said, my grandmother reads the Bible. And I said, you've got a very wise grandmother. You should listen to your grandmother. And we want to try and continue our conversation further and hopefully take up with them, but we never saw them again. There is a hunger for Christianity in China. Okay? So we need to be there. China is going to be the leader of the world. They are known as the Central Kingdom. Have always have been. They've had a bureaucracy going for 2,000 years or more. And they're known as the Central Kingdom. I thought the Central Kingdom was to do with the dynasties. But it wasn't. They saw themselves as the centre of the earth. And they weren't interested in anybody else. They just had to live their lives peacefully and so on. And they believed that they were, the emperors were, the ruler of all under heaven. They knew about God. And they believed that they were there to rule for God. And I know that there are different definitions of God, but it's the God of Abraham that they were referring to. And Buddhism came into China because of India. During this cultural revolution, Islam was not allowed to flourish, Buddhism was not allowed to flourish, Christianity was not allowed to flourish, but it still did. Most Muslims in China are Muslims by culture or by birth, not by religion. But the interesting thing is, they won't listen to the Chinese people who are non-Muslim because they see them as torpedoes. We need to be there. The government wants everyone to learn English. They do listen to the experts, English-speaking people, so we need to be there. We've got an opportunity while the fire's burning brightly to get in there and go to a minority group of 20 million people, 20 million Muslims, by birth, not by religion, and get them the gospel. Of that 20 million people, 200 are Christians. And there are other minority groups, but there are a lot more Christians. So where we were, that's the opportunity, that's where we should be. And time's running out. Okay, next one. And there's no need for foreigners. Yes, there is. They will listen to us. They will respect us, whereas they don't necessarily respect some of the Chinese. The Chinese themselves are going to evangelise themselves and they're doing a great job. But there is a need for English experts to be there. There is a need. May not always be that need, may not always be that opportunity, but it's there. And you never know. I believe that one day the Chinese will be evangelising the world for the Lord. China will be the leader of the universe, of the world. They were once. Prior to Marco Polo, during Marco Polo, they've had a hiccup for the last 60 years. They've backslidden for the last 60 years. But they're getting on track to really be on fire for the Lord. Next one, thanks. And missionary work is not a charade. Missionary work is obedience. And missionary work begins where you live. It's being obedient to the Lord and letting others know that you love Him and what He wants of you. So it comes down to this. Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. We will serve the Lord, our God, and obey Him. I'll tell you more over the next couple of weeks. I'll try to give you a quick overview. In the next couple of weeks we'll just go into a bit more detail and some of the things that are there. Thanks, mate.